Hello, hello, hello. This is Mary Fran Korb, and I'm here with Frances DiMartino. And she and I have a similar background, and I wrote my book about my background, and it's called Breaking Through Concrete: The Gift of Having Mentally Ill Parents. So Frances also had mentally ill parents, and we had somewhat the same, but somewhat very different backgrounds. So, welcome, Frances.
Thank you.
So, I know you to be somebody who has a really high spirited energy. And I wondered, did you start with that from day one, or did anything change over the years? How did that work for you?
My grandmother would look at me and say, "You always have to be different." And it would exasperate her because she always wondered why, if everybody was wearing blue, I had to have red.
Uh-huh.
Or I would want an outfit that was completely different from everyone else's. I didn't want the shoes everyone was wearing or the dresses that everyone was wearing. So I was always independent and I had my own style.
Yes. Yeah, always. So that didn't your background didn't make that happen. It was your genes.
Yes.
So were you such a spirited child that you got into trouble, or you got into any danger because of um your rebellious spirit?
I had a rebellious spirit, but
Mhm.
I was very well behaved in school, followed the
Oh,
rules, did well. Whereas my younger brother was the rebellious one and was always in trouble and needed rescuing. I was sort of the rescuer, but I did do some pretty sketchy things myself. But I was the kind of kid who planned it out in her head, like someone going to pull a bank heist. I always pulled
mm.
off the perfect crime. And I guess I should be a poker player because you could never tell by my face what was going on. I
Ah.
looked like butter would melt in my mouth. Whereas my brother, you could always read what was on his mind and what he was up to. You always knew what he did. You never knew what I did.
Ah, super. Um, so anything else about that personality trait and how it worked with your stressful background with your your mother out of the picture, your father working all the time, and your grandmother being the victim of all the work that she had because she had to raise her grandchildren. You know, anything more you want to say about that?
Well, with the work we've been doing, I've come to realize that my grandmother did play the martyr, but it was the way that she was raised. She was an immigrant Italian woman from the Campania, grew up on a farm with 13 brothers and sisters, and she was the baby. So she was brought up with that you owe us for
Mhm.
everything,
Yeah.
even for things that we didn't ask for. Like, I didn't ask to be born, and I didn't, if I'm born, you ought to feed me. These are things that I should be grateful for, but not grateful in the sense of that if I would have starved, you were going to starve me to death or something. If you haven't been starved, then it's not like you're going to say, "Oh, thank you for the food every day. Oh, thank you for the food every day. Oh, thank you for the food every day." You have air to breathe. You breathe all the time, so you're used to it. And while you should be appreciating the air, it's not something that's in your mind all the time, like, "Oh, I'm breathing."
And kids deserve to eat, for God's sake. My goodness, you shouldn't expect them to be, you can encourage them to be grateful, but to expect it, that's out there, you know.
With my own daughter, I vowed there was a few things that I was never going to do. I don't do I told you so.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Even if she did something as a child that went wrong, I didn't believe in, well, she'll learn a lesson if I don't replace the item. She'll learn to be more careful. No, that doesn't always help.
Right.
You get another item and you just tell them, hey, maybe if we do this and that, that won't happen again. And they will be more careful. When
Yeah.
she got married and she left the home, I looked at her and I said, I'm going to do something for you that wasn't done for me. Today, I set you free. You owe me nothing.
Yes.
You were born because it was my idea.
Mm-hmm.
You don't owe me. I owe my daughter for what she gave me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because as much as you want to have children, and then I spent the first 21 years with her living at home. And now I've spent the last 12 years living in her home. She was my gift to the world, my legacy. And she's also the greatest gift I ever gave myself.
Yes, yes, beautiful.
And thank you. And if I hadn't had my grandmother, who did a lot of right things, but also did a lot of wrong things, one thing that I learned is I learned from the good things. I took the good from her and
Yeah,
I learned from the bad things.
wonderful.
And that was really important for me.
Can you elaborate on the good things?
Oh, my grandmother protected me. My grandmother made sure that, we were protected. She took us to school herself. My mother was sort of at large. So it was a great fear of my grandmother's, since my grandmother didn't have actual custody of us. And it was always a fear with her that, maybe she was overprotective, but I understood why. Because at any time, my mother could come and take us from the schoolyard and say, these are my children. And my grandmother was very aware of it. And since my mother was not in her right mind, and it's hard having to say that about her, but she wasn't. She was a schizophrenic, but she just might have gone on a toot and just say, oh, I want the kids. And if she went to the schoolyard, she could have taken us, and my grandmother could not legally stop her.
Wow. Yeah, boy.
I don't know why my father did not go to court and give my grandmother custody of us. I don't know why that happened. Or maybe I do, because he was, I always say his chateau was built on the banks of denial. Perhaps he was hoping tomorrow will be better and she will get better and we'll all live happily ever after.
Goodness.
It couldn't have been easy for him.
No, oh no. But I can see how your grandmother would have been stressed by that fear. Yeah. So she was a fierce lioness when it came to protection. So that was good. And that gave you some sense of security. Yeah.
She lived till I was 40 years old. And whenever I left the building, from the time I was allowed to go out on my own until I was 40, she always went out on the balcony to make sure that I had gotten out of the building and no one had kidnapped me or I was lying in a stairwell.
Wow.
And it was so odd because I would go down the front steps of the building and I would turn and she was always there.
My goodness.
She was always there to wave
Wow.
at me. If she was mad at me, she'd jump back and hide. So I couldn't wave at her, but she couldn't move that fast. I knew she was always there.
Yeah, yeah. My goodness. Wow.
The good thing about having done these questions with you so long and you know, having worked with me on this is I have been able to find so many good memories about my grandmother. As I've told you, I remember doing a workbook for memoir,
Yeah.
and it was impossible for me for a couple of years to even write down a memory that happened before age 2021 when I left home. There was no memory that I wanted to commit to paper about childhood. It was like I wanted to just forget about childhood. But now I can remember it, and I can remember some funny things and supportive things and good things that she did. it is, the one thing I wanted to be was better, not bitter,
Right.
because my family bitterness, um, it would be like a day without orange juice if somebody wasn't talking about something that they were so mad about the past and bring it up. Bitterness was an everyday thing there. The what might have been, if it hadn't happened for this, if you hadn't done this, if he hadn't done that, if I had done this, no. For me, there are no woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Yeah.
My only regret is smoking cigarettes. I have one. I shouldn't have smoked cigarettes, but I'm off them for 15 years, so that's good.
And it gave you a sense of comfort to smoke, right?
I think,
Because of
that,
your background.
yes, we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
For me, everything was oral. I had buck teeth and had to have my teeth straightened when I was very young, because my father told me I never stopped sucking my thumb when I was little. He said, I'd take your hand out of your mouth. He said, you were always sucking on your thumb. I know that was comfort. That and the fact that I stayed on bottle until I was 5 years old. He told me, he said, I thought I was going to have to pack a bottle in a lunch pail for you to take to school. But he said, then you stopped, when you got ready for kindergarten. But I just clung to my bottle of milk or juice or water, whatever I had. I didn't want to give it up. Then, of course, my battle with food. And then I smoked for 35 years. And, you went back and forth. You quit smoking, you ate more food. You started smoking again, you ate less food, and, but now I'm off cigarettes for 15 years and I've taken some weight off. So things are good. Things are good.
Yes, yes.
Things are good.
The more you heal, the better your body can be. You find other ways to comfort yourself. That's wonderful.
And I have.
Yay, yay.
Yay.
All right, let's wrap it up here and we'll do this again with different questions. Thank you so much, Frances, for being here.
Thank you, Mary Fran, for all that you've done for me.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, we don't want to go
We're
into that.
continuing to break through the concrete together.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Bye for now, Frances.
Bye.
Bye-bye.